Continue monitoring traffic volumes out in Gauteng this weekend. eNCA has stationed itself on major highways as well as toll routes. So let's take a look now at the N3 to Durban with our reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones. Pule, how is the traffic flow this morning? It's just after 8 o'clock. Are people making their way to Durban?
Well, yes, Faith, this is the second last Saturday of 2021, and as it is right now, people are hoping that the next year, 2022, could be full of fruitful and blissful moments. And as it is, people are just making their way to their various holiday destinations, such as here on the N3, where we're seeing a number of cars flowing into Durban, making their way to Durban as well. I'm just going to ask my colleague, Ditiro, just to try and pan on my right-hand side, where you can see, taxis carrying passengers as well as other, cars, hopefully thinking that we are seeing that they're going into this, their Hook Plaza, making their way into Durban. Now, there's quite a lot that we've seen here. We've also seen a couple of, police officials trying to, facilitate and patrol these routes. And of course, asking, motorists to park on the side so they can actually search and, see what is it that they have, particularly to try and ensure that this is a safety season whereby they can curb crime and, of course, criminal activities on the road, which includes drinking and driving, amongst others.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you're observing, the cars are being stopped and searching continuing. Has anything of significance been identified as yet? Have you seen law enforcement arresting anybody or pulling anybody to the side? How's that patrolling going on their end?
Well, for now, still like early hours, what we understand is that they're asking them just to open their boot and, try verify some of their documentation. We've also seen truckers as well now stopping on the sides and being checked by police officials, particularly to ensure that they have those correct permits, which can allow them to transport goods into South Africa. And we do know that if that permit has expired, then that is, of course, would be seen as an unlawful move. But as it is right now, the police are quite sure that they will be patrolling here, ensuring that it is all safe and is all good to go for motorists to go to their holiday destinations.
Well, in terms of just having conversations with the law enforcement, how has the roads been in terms of accidents? I know that particularly around this time, we've got wet weather. This is obviously coupled with a number of volumes of vehicles that are making their ways into Durban. But in terms of just like road carnage or any form of accidents, how are we faring so far?
Well, as it is right now, we haven't been haven't received such bad news as to how there's been accidents of a higher volume. But of course, we are aware that law officials, or rather law enforcement, have been on high alert to ensure that they can control the movement of motorists, particularly around the issue of drinking and driving, which has been, of course, of a high concern, and to ensure that they also breathalyze some of the motorists, to see if they meet the criteria of being safe and driving on the roads, and of course, such as taxi drivers who are carrying passengers, as well as bus drivers as well, and buses that are carrying passengers, driving them to their final holiday destinations. And so what we're seeing right now is a spread of numerous, law enforcement officials who are on the road patrolling to ensure that everything is safe, just like we've seen with the Minister of Police, Gauteng, now being in the Western Cape, in Cape Town, to ensure that the flow of traffic and, of course, holiday makers making their way into the Western Cape is controlled and that the roads are safe as well.
Pule, before we let you go, there's also been conversations with different officials saying that they are looking at having vaccination spots at various places across the country as motorists make their way and crisscrossing the country. Are we seeing any signs of those pop-up vaccination sites so far? I know that last year, particularly around this time, it was motorists having to stop at various spots and get themselves COVID checked for any form of symptoms and the like. This year it was around the vaccination sites being in operation. Are we seeing any form of pop-up sites or even signs of a vaccination pop-up site nearby?
Well, you know what, Faith, that's a very key point. And in terms of the vaccination drive, one would expect some of these pop-up drives to be on some of these busy highway roads to ensure that people are vaccinated. You know, you remember that there were media reports alleging that the Limpopo Premier, Stanley Mathabata, said, you know, if people are on the road and are not vaccinated, they will, you know, have to vaccinate. You know, they'll have to take that vaccination just to ensure that the drive of that vaccination process is speedily increasing to try and also ensure that people can curb the Omicron, which has been a very notorious as well and highly transmissible. And of course, like we've seen with the hospitalization cases, there's been allegations of those who were there, some of the patients haven't been vaccinated. But we've been here since 6 a.m. and we haven't seen some of those pop outside. We're hoping that as the day proceeds and as the day goes along, we'll be seeing some of those officials coming here to ensure that holiday makers do what's responsible and embark on that vaccination drive.
Yep, and before I let you go, speeding is a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, speeding, if you're caught speeding, Faith, of course, you will be facing the full wrath of the law. As it is right now, law officials are, of course, on the high alert to ensure that no one is speeding, just like you've said. What have been some of those, charges that have been linked, or rather what have law officials done so far? And we're hoping that they will be monitoring some of those drivers who are actually adhering to the road traffic rules, such as not overspeeding the speed limits. And that's one thing that will be on high alert, particularly with some of the buses and taxis which are transporting passengers through, in and out of some of these provinces. That will be one key element that has to be, monitored to ensure that the accidents don't increase and that people arrive safely to their holiday destinations.